Hi, hello and welcome back to Phoenix Dreams. Today's session really is a combination of the Fundu Science Facts and Fantasies and Speak Right with Sid, the Saturday edition of English Learning. So today what we're going to do is we're going to talk about, like I said, it's a mix, it's a combination. We're going to talk about geeky science stuff, and we're also going to work on our vocabulary. As I talk about these things, there are going to be a few uncommon words which I might say, and I will tell you the meaning of those words as well. Right? So let's begin. This video today, and whatever I'm going to talk about is linked to one of my previous videos, and I'll put the link up there in the corner, so you can have a look at it again. There's this video where I had spoken about the visible spectrum and the limitations of the human senses, wherein you can see in between, or you can hear in between a certain range. With as far as sight or visual sense is concerned, it's the VIBGYOR, the visible spectrum as it's called, and for our auditory sense, it's between the frequency of 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz. So this is limitation that we have, and we would feel unfortunate that we can't see beyond it. But now here's where we need to ask a question to ourselves: are we really unfortunate, or is there a reason why we have this limitation? In fact, there is. And who has made this choice for us? Nature has made this choice for us. Nature has decided that this is what we should see, because it will be beneficial to us. Now, we will first talk about the this is reflecting. We will talk about the auditory sense first, about our hearing, 20 hertz and 20,000 hertz. So let's take a look at both sides of the auditory spectrum. Less than 20 hertz. Now, you must have noticed, and this is something which I'm sure all of you have, that dogs at times suddenly, look at some place and start barking, or if they're lying down, they get up and look at a specific spot. And when you look there's nothing, and that's also led to the myth that dogs can see ghosts. Now, the point is, it's not that they get up or bark, or get up and look at something and bark at something because they can see something there. They do it because they can hear something from that direction, and that is because they have the ability to be able to get those volumes, those frequencies, below 20 hertz. And I had spoken about the dog whistle last time as well. Crows also have that ability. A lot of birds have that ability where they can hear these very low frequency sounds and they react to it. Now, if we were able to hear those, and like I said, this is a limitation caused by nature. If we were able to hear those, we would hear so many things at low frequencies, but we would hear them. We would hear the wings of all the birds flapping around in the sky. Not just the birds, the wings of each and every tiny insect around us. We could hear them flapping around. The mosquitoes, the flies, we could hear them buzzing around in our ears at all time. You could also hear the millions of molecules in the atmosphere hitting each other at every single. They're moving. It's all there. We can't see it. They're too tiny. We'll talk about that when we get to vision. So there are millions of molecules in the atmosphere around us, and they're constantly moving. They're hitting each other. We could hear all of those molecules hitting every single moment. You could hear electricity passing through a wire as it buzzes through. So really, do we need to hear all of these things? No, we don't. So nature has decided that we don't need to hear anything below 20 hertz, and it's not audible. Similarly, if you go to the other end of the auditory spectrum, beyond 20,000 hertz, if you're able to hear sounds at that frequency, then the world would be a cacophony. A cacophony. That's the first word we're going to talk about today. Cacophony. 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 What does cacophony means? Cacophony means a chaotic assembly, combination of deafening noises. High frequency noises. If you were standing in a church and all the bells would ring together at loud volumes, and people talking, an airplane flying from top, that's what the world would be at all times. It would be a complete chaotic cacophony, because you could hear all these high frequency sounds. And if you were able to hear all these high frequency sounds, then our voices would be completely lost. We wouldn't be able to hear ourselves speak. But like I also mentioned in my previous video, there are some animals who can hear beyond 20,000 hertz. Now, is there a reason for that? Yes, there is. Because nature has again gifted them that ability for a reason. Now, I gave the example of bats last time who use their high frequency screams to be able to locate their prey. Now, it is not just prey, they are nocturnal animals. They fly in the night. Why do you think bats don't hit against trees or buildings or mountains? How are they able to find their way in the darkness of the night? They use the same thing. They use their sound, their high frequency sound. And this concept where any animal is able to gauge the distance of something as to how far it is from him is known as echolocation. That's the second word for today. Echolocation. Use the echo of your own sound to find out, to determine the location of something, the direction and the distance. That is echolocation. And bats use that. So what they do is that they make themselves these high frequency sounds which are emitted from their mouths. As they move forward, they will either hit a smaller prey and come back to them, or they will hit a building or a tree or any obstacle that might be in their way and come back at them. When it comes back at them, they are able to gauge the direction and the distance of that particular thing from them, and then they are able to either avoid that if it's an obstacle or head towards it if it's prey. Right? Now, besides bats, there are other animals who do that also, who use echolocation for hunting or for movement. In the deep sea, we think the sea is blue, but if you go deep down, it is completely pitch dark. You can't see anything. So, deep sea animals also use echolocation. Whales, as an example, our friends, the dolphins, they use echolocation using their own high frequency sounds. Now, can we do echolocation? No, we can't. So, nature hasn't given us that gift. We can hear echoes once in a while when you go to these hill stations on these mountain peaks and you call out your names and you wait for it and then it comes back. Why? Because your sound, your voice goes forward, hits a mountain peak and comes back to you. Why? And you can hear it because there is a time gap, because that peak is a far distance away, so your voice goes there and it takes time for it to come back, and there is nothing in between. There's vast expanse of space, so the voice does come back to you, and that's why you're able to hear your own echo. So, do echoes happen all the time? Yes, they do. There is an echo happening right now as I speak. My voice is hitting my phone and coming back to me. But since it's so close, there is a very small time gap between the two, and my ears are not equipped to be able to differentiate these two sounds. So, there is an echo happening, and echo happens all the time you speak. It is just that you're not able to hear all the echoes. You can only hear those which come off a far distance, because our ears are not able to. If I was able to, then I would have heard my voice coming back to me from my phone, and without looking at it, being able to gauge where my phone is and how far it is away from me. But humans aren't able to do that. First, they aren't able to hear high frequency sounds, and whatever frequency sounds they are able to hear, they are not able to echolocate. Right? So, like I said, nature has chosen these things for us, our limitations, as a favor to us, because we don't need to hear unnecessary things. And if we are able to hear the high frequency things, the world, like I said, will be a chaos of cacophony. Right? Now, moving on to our sight. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. We know that we can see between the spectrum, the visible spectrum of VIBGYOR, violet to red. And I had also spoken about ultraviolet and infrared. Now, like I said, this is where it gets interesting. If you were able to see beyond infrared, or if we had infrared vision, this is where mixing of our senses starts. What would we have been able to do is we would have been able to see how hot or cold something is. Now, that is something which is normally associated with our tactile sense, with our sense of touch. If I touch something, I know it is hot or cold. But now, if I have infrared vision, I would be able to see if something's hot or cold. I can see a submarine in the sea. I can see it even though it's deep down. Why? Because it's hotter than the rest of the sea. If I put a vessel of milk on the gas to boil, I could see it boiling without looking at it, without touching it, without looking at the steam coming out. I can see it changing color in my infrared vision. I will then be able to see things heat or things get cooler. Right? So, why can't we do that? Because we have a sense, our tactile sense to do that. So, our eyes don't need to feel hotness or coldness. And that's why we don't need to have infrared vision. We don't need to have X-ray vision, because if we have X-ray vision, the world will be doomed. Cloth companies will go out of fashion, out of business, because clothes will have no use at all, because you could see through them. You could see people's skeletons. You don't need to have X-ray machines. The world will be a very, very weird place. So we don't have X-ray vision too, because we don't need it. So nature, or God, whatever you want to call it, has given us these limitations for a reason. We don't need to see in infrared. We don't need to see in X-ray, because we have a tactile sense. We don't need to see through things. We don't need to be Superman. What is required societally is what our senses are able to do for us. So yeah, that's all I have. While I'm talking about the mixing of vision, mixing of senses is one very interesting phenomenon. I'll research about it more and talk about it in a further video. But this is what I know as of now. There are some people whose senses are mixed in their brains. So you normally see colors and you hear frequencies and you smell odors of fragrances and you taste various tastes: sweet, sour, salty, bitter, and you feel hot, cold, pain. Now some people have their nerves cross-wired. So what happens with them, and I'll find out the term for this as well. What happens with them is that I smell colors. I smell, and it smells purple to me. Or I look at something and I say that that looks salty. Or I taste something and I say that smells like pain. Right? So my perception of vision has gotten, the wiring has gone awry. So my senses don't sense what they're supposed to. They sense what some other sensory organ is supposed to sense. So that also can happen. It actually has happened. There is a medical condition which makes that happen. Like I said, I'll research more about it and talk about it in some of my subsequent videos. So that's all that I have for you. The mixing of senses and why we have a limitation of our senses. I know it's been a bit of a long video, but it's a combination of two of my themes, so I let it go on. I hope you learned something fun and two new words: cacophony and echolocation. Right? If you have any comments, please put them in the comment section. I'll be more than happy to answer them. That's all for now. That's all I have for you. Looking forward to having another chat with you. Thank you so much for your time, and see you around.